all of you to our Knowledge Community Working Group meeting or meetings. And yeah, what's on the agenda for today? So we will briefly start with a warm-up, see who is here today, and then we will start with a joint session of all working groups in the plenary. And for this, we will take a look at the Knowledge Community Working Groups activities and achievements, and also give an outlook on what is to come next year. Then the working group leads will present the drafted spotlights. So you already received the information last week with the links to the spotlight drafts, which are available on Xpera, and we will briefly present the takeaways before we then, in the second part of today's meeting, go into the working group sessions. And here we want to give all of you the possibility to actually join 2 different working groups. So we will have 2 working group sessions, each of which will be about 25 to 30 minutes long. And yeah, so this is the agenda for today. And yeah, first of all, again, welcome to our 5 working groups. So today we have from the working group System Architecture and Implementation Modeling, Ludwig Karg is working group lead, and he will be supported by Alfin today. Then we have Oleg together with Susanna from Click for the working group Storage and Cross-Energy Carrier Synergies. Eva together with Giuseppe for Regulatory and Market Development, and Julio also as Eva from RSE together with Marie from Click for the working group Regional Matters, and myself, Alisa, together with Andreas Korusa, also from Baum Consult, for the Consumer and Citizen Involvement Working Group. And so this is, yeah, we are those from the support team working quite closely together with the working group members. And we would now also like to ask you, get an overview which projects are here today in this meeting, or also which actors from initiatives or organizations outside of the JPP SES. And so you can now either directly in your WebEx app or also join the Slido, or then take your smartphone, scan the QR code, or go to slido.com and then enter the code, which you will now see on the next slide. And yeah, please let us know if you represent a JPP SES project, or maybe also several projects, and which project is this, or if not, which institution do you represent? Okay, so we have from some projects, we have like USC FlexStore, several participants, and so as I see, there's projects from several of the calls, and many of those who are here today also were actively involved in the activities leading up to the spotlights, which we will mainly talk about today. So you can also keep filling in your answers. Glad to have you all here. And as I already said, you will have the opportunity to join 2 different working groups today. And so that we already get a bit of an idea how many people are interested in which working groups, we would ask you, if you go to the next question, to indicate which 2 working groups you're planning to join today. So you can tick 2 answers here. Okay, so there's still answers coming in, and yeah, you can then, especially now then also after hearing the presentations of the main takeaways, you may still change your mind. So you're free to join, as we said, whichever working groups you want to join today. And but this is already looking good that we get more or less a good distribution also of participants. Okay, thank you. So yeah, the aim of today's meeting is to close the current co-creation cycle. And for this, to start out with, I would like to briefly again show this slide, which gives an overview of the working group activities and achievements and how they are embedded in the knowledge community of the JPP SES initiative. And so last year at the conference, at the Status Conference, we kicked off the co-creation cycle, which we are closing today. So this started with the selection of reference documents, which were then discussed within the working groups, within the discussion documents that were set up on Xpera. And based on these discussions, on your inputs, in spring of this year, we already developed and published policy briefs. So a policy brief summary for all 5 working groups, and then also extensive documents for each working group. And today we will then focus on finalizing the spotlights. So the spotlights, for those of you who also, because we now have newer projects from the Joint Call 2020, who are maybe who are relatively new to this process. So here in the spotlights, the aim is to really give a deep give the projects, US projects, and also external experts who contribute to the discussion documents the opportunity to bring in their results and also discuss these results in relation to these selected reference documents. So these are directives, meta-studies, reports, and roadmaps, which are really of high interest for our projects, but also for most stakeholders in the smart energy systems world. And so after today's discussion or review of the spotlights, we will then go as working group leads. We will go back to the drafts and then refine them so that they can be then disseminated and also presented to the steering board in the beginning of November. So as I said, what is today's aim? Bringing together all the 5 working groups to review the drafts, and because we know that many of you are active in more than one working group, we again chose to approach this with these 2 slots of working group meetings. Before we now dive into the presentations of the main takeaways of the spotlights, we would like to give you two more rather organizational information, as we will not come back into the plenary after the working group sessions. So as you this is the same slide as you already saw. We have these 5 working groups that are active. And there is also, which some of you have already seen on Xpera maybe, and also on our website, there is still there is also the working group interoperability and standardization mentioned. So this working group is currently not active. Nevertheless, this is a topic of high relevance and also of high interest. We receive requests from time to time whether it is possible to join this working group. As this working group is not active currently, we would, however, like to briefly introduce you to a project that just recently started, the ERA-Net project. Those of you who were at the policy conference yesterday may already have heard about it. And here I would now briefly give the word to my colleague Andreas, who is involved both in the JPP SES and also ERA-Net, and he will briefly introduce you to the ERA-Net project.
Thank you very much, Elisa. Should I move the slides, or can you do that?
I will move the slide, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much again for being here. And I was told I should give a very short introduction, so I will skip to the most important thing. It's a fairly new project. We are in about 6 months now, and all the work packages will actually be then together by next month, and then we start the overall work. And here I would just want to show you in one picture what we are trying to do and what in the end also the outcomes can be. So first of all, we are trying to create a interoperability ecosystem, which should also be community-based. So that's why we're also giving this an opportunity. Please join us in also constructing and developing this in the near future. Obviously, to create this network, we have a few modules or a few things we need to fulfill. And one thing is obviously to create a knowledge base that is commonly understood, work on a maturity model that can be later also be used by organizations and such to assess and increase interoperability in general. As well as when we come to labs or talk about labs, develop a framework so testing can also be conducted when you do that. So you have a certain place, it could be also digital, that you can use and test your software or hardware depending on the use case. And in the end, obviously, we also want to create standards or let's say governance around this topic when we try to bring together all parts in the energy system. So I hope this gave you a brief overview. Please get in touch with us or with me personally. Stay tuned about new things that will come out of this project. And we have a website. Please feel free to look at it. And I'll be very glad to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andreas. And so this was the first information we wanted to pass on. And then, as I said, we will close today the ongoing co-creation cycle of the knowledge community working groups. And this, of course, makes many of you wonder what will then happen next. So, what will be the next activities? And here I would first of all, or start out with a brief glance at the history of the knowledge community working groups. So in fact, the activities, as I very briefly introduced in the beginning, so the co-creation activities for the development of policy briefs and spotlights, They were introduced in 2017 and since then developed further and also from time to time adapted to the needs of the JPP SES program and also the projects. So for example, in 2020, at the Status Conference, this new element was integrated into the new co-creation activities. That was that we actually based our discussions on external reference documents. And so, yeah, this element was included back then. And since then, we developed and also disseminated successfully policy briefs in 3 different formats and spotlights for all 5 working groups in the co-creation cycles of 2020, 2021, and 2021 and 2022. So in fact, the Spotlights 2022 edition will now be finalized shortly. And so with the initiative running since 2015 and currently call 7 being just closed, we have about 19 projects that have so far been funded within the initiative, and about 68 of these projects have already closed or will end by next year. So this actually means that by now we have really a great wealth of results and concrete outputs from past and present projects. And many of these results relate to one or in most cases to several topics that the 5 working groups cover. And so in order to really take into consideration the current needs of the initiative and also of the projects, we want to throughout the next year focus more on taking up these results from our project within the knowledge community. So the working groups throughout the next year will focus on analyzing and discussing these impacts and results from JPP SES funded projects, rather than focusing the discussions on external reference documents as we did over the past 2 years. And for now, there is the information for you that there will be working group meetings scheduled for February, March 2023, and then more information will also follow soon for all of you as working group members. And this then brings me directly to the first presentation of our 5 spotlights, and we will start out with the working group regional matters. So Julio, I pass the word to you.
Thank you for your presentation. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, first of all, I would like to say that the project contributed very heavily and substantially to the spotlight in the Regional Matters Working Group. I thank you everyone for the excellent results. Let's go to a short description. The next, please. The next, okay. Well, the topic A regards tools to put the end user in contact with the supplier. And it comes from the discussion documents based on the ETIPSNet Research and Implementation Plan 2021-2024. Well, different flavors and perspectives are considered in this topic. One important aspect regards that this interaction is related with the ease and use of understanding. For the interaction, appropriate technological innovation is needed. For example, smart meters equipped with the gateway able to report CO2 levels of emission at single building levels. Automatic control will become more relevant in the future. Next. In this case, data of CO2 consumption would drive new urban energy policies. The final two perspectives of the topic A regards the communication system to enhance real-time optimization and standardization of data communication protocols toward scalable control solutions. Next slide, please. The topic B is related to reliable solutions for operational planning. This is also coming from discussion on the TIPSnet documents. Here, also many projects have contributed to the topic, as you see. It was underlined that predictive management is essential to avoid critical solutions ahead of time. Advanced in controllability of power and voltage at the basis of secure way of an increasing utilization of power system. It has been pointed out that the importance of management of actual measurements and the critical aspect of islanded energy systems. Finally, it was underlined the need of extension of regulations and policies of the importance to develop structured data framework to capture dynamic situations in the case of operational planning. Next, please. Well, topic C regards open source tools for easy, fast creation of building information models. And it comes from the discussion documents basing on renewable heating and cooling ETIPS document on the strategic agenda. The topic is centered on the importance of the energy performance certificate. Around the topic were discussed also arguments such as the house owner involvement, adequate database building, decision-making roles, files, formats, and protocols, and the cross-disciplinary expertise needs. Next, please. Well, the topic D relates to the advanced control schemes and predictive models for district heating and cooling system. The topic is centered on the need to test and develop new prediction and control tools and technologies without jeopardizing the security of the system, of course. To apply these tools, it is necessary to negotiate with DSO their roles and service in the light of new emerging roles in the system. Other aspect discussed regards the need to engagement in industry, engagement with the experts in the field of digitalization, as well with end users. Next one. Well, the last topic regards the long-term planning with integration of heating and cooling and other energy vectors, and come from discussions around the set plan document on the decreasing resilience on security of the energy system. Also here, many projects have contributed. The planning techniques should incorporate coupling with other energy vectors, as well as long-term changes in the system components, such as a higher level of electric vehicle penetrations. It is crucial to have initial heating and cooling project description and managing and control in the optimal way. And finally, the need of digitalization perspective, of course. Well, I will gladly wait for you in the regional matters if you are interested to go into details and improve and finalize the spotlight description with your contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julio. And then we'll directly go to the Working Group Regulatory and Market Development.
Yes. Good afternoon. Can you hear me, Alisa, now?
Yes, maybe you can speak up a little bit.
Okay, I try.
Thank you.
So, this is the Working Group on Regulatory and Market Development. The group is mainly focused on the regulatory issues that slow down the introduction of distributed energy resources, generally speaking. So, for instance, including also renewable energy communities and their storage and their participation in the market as flexibility options. And this is reflected by the topics that we are addressing in the group, and therefore we selected the four reference documents reflect these topics. So the first topic is about electricity tariffs and network charges for renewable energy. So we started from the tariffs in the field of renewable energy communities, but then the discussion extended a bit toward renewable energy support in general. So you see here the joint conclusion that electricity tariffs should not contain components that would not reflect the actual impact on the electricity network system. Otherwise, let's say stakeholders and users can be affected that do not have any advantage from this. And alternative support mechanisms should be investigated and developed. In this frame, also dynamic tariffs and renewable energy tariff settings should be considered. Please go to the next one. So the second topic concern regulatory authorities for electricity and gas. And so the group agrees that there is a need for a single regulatory authority in each member state at national level, joining the electricity and gas fields, since this guarantees a better coordination of these fields, mainly in this period where sector coupling is becoming really important. And it is also recommended to place heat and particularly district heating in the competences of a unified national regulatory authority. In this sense, renewable gas should be considered specifically, and also the topic of registers for proof of origin should be carefully harmonized. The next topic is related to storage. So technical and economic challenges of implementing energy storage for the grid. It is agreed that this requires adoption of both new grid development strategies and implementation of novel alternative technological solutions, and that DSOs play a crucial role and should be incentivized to procure flexibility services. Specifically, investment based on total expenses should be favored, and also the alignment on ownership of enabling technologies should be carefully considered. And the upper level grid should also be carefully considered, even if local grid will participate in storage and in the market of storage in order to support and to provide interregional balancing. Virtual storage is also very important, and it is stressed that incentives should also be allocated towards energy communities. The final topic concerns the introduction, so the allocation of cost for balancing and backup capacities in district heating systems in relation with the introduction of third parties in this market. This is the unbundling of these networks is considered important in order to allow higher amounts of waste, heat, and renewable energy to be exploited. and more business models are needed, and in this sense, network operators should have a defined task to reduce CO2. This is an interesting topic, although it was discussed only by one project, but I hope that other projects involving district heating could give their contribution now. Yes, this was the final, and so I also hope that you will participate in the breakout sessions with your contributions. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. And then, yeah, we'll go next to the working group system architecture and implementation modeling. And yeah, welcome, Ludwig.
Well, hi, everybody. System architecture and implementation modeling, despite of the fact that we had been discussing a lot about interoperability and standardization, and Alisa has told you that this special working group doesn't exist. In a sense, it has been integrated in the working group on system architecture. Those that have been with us for a while know that in the beginning we had talked a lot about standardized view on architectures. Remember, we were looking at the system architecture model and so on. And then the last year, we discussed a lot about interoperability. And what you will see, the focus also of the spotlight is on interoperability, just to give you maybe the umbrella of the findings. More or less, we said interoperability eases, of course, the development and the deployment. But on the other hand side, we shouldn't narrow down the development paths too much, and we shouldn't, or we should allow for markets to develop. So this is a shiny issue, and we took quite some time to try and formulate it in a way that these both sides of the coin show up. So after this preface, if you jump to the four dimensions we have been looking at, topic A we call the community-driven management approach as a suitable alternative to cope with missing holistic and systemic independent solutions. More or less, the spotlight claims that there should be some guidance for those that do development in research, innovation. We probably should have checklists for every funding program, so they ask the funded projects to really go for more interoperable solutions. And in a very specific case, and I think that was Gerald who promoted, or Gerfried who promoted that a lot, there's the European Building Directive. And if nothing works inside the building, then we will not have enough efficiency in the energy supply or usage in the building. So we should foster more interoperability in the buildings, and that could be built into the building directive. We should also foster the digitalization, because the more and the better the digital support is, the better all these pieces will go together. And we had a long discussion on whether open source and open data and what type of open source and open data should be fostered. At the end, we said it should be given priority, but you should read the detail in the recommendation or in the spotlight. If you go to topic B deals with the practicalities of how to create and implement interoperable approaches. It deals with the interoperability profiles, and it also says that it should be possible to test the interoperability. So many claim that their tools, devices are interoperable, but how do you prove? And that's why it was very valuable that Andreas has pointed to the Internet project, because the Internet project is, amongst others, after a huge set of test facilities in Europe, And what we put in the spotlight is that this is important and that everybody should look out and use these test facilities. If you go to the topic C quickly, you go. We discussed a lot about the smart meters, and a big discussion was, is a meter only a meter or is it a metering system? The real metering system does not only allow to collect consumption data, but also does allow to establish something like actors to influence consumption or also generation. We promote a lot these bidirectional devices that allow us to meter and to also control. At the same time, to implement that, we also have to test it and we have to create the profiles, how to use that. That is being described also in the spotlight here. And last not least, topic D. That's about the makings of interoperability, the makings of standards. It's about profiling. It's about also making it mandatory to create these profiles and obey to these profiles with the projects. Again, we promote to put that also in the tenders. When institutions, ministries also call for tenders, put it there that the solutions provided by the projects, developed by the project, should follow specific profiles or obey to specific specifications, etc. And again, to test it against the profiles, make the test facilities easily accessible, low profile, cost efficient, and so on. So that's the direction. What you can see is we dealt a lot with interoperability, but as we said before, that will probably end up in the internet project, and we will concentrate a bit more on the architectural questions than in the CM working group. Thank you.
Thank you, Ludwig. And then Oleg is already ready, and the word is yours, Oleg.
Good afternoon, and first of all, I wish to thank all projects which contributed to this Spotlight edition and the valuable feedback they gave. So basically, two documents were analyzed. Document A, how green is blue hydrogen, and document B, EU strategy on energy system integration. Next slide, please. So it is clear that hydrogen is emerging as one leading solutions for energy storage, and especially the hydrogen generated with renewable energy sources could be a key solution for decarbonization of the economy, industry, and transportation. And however, it depends on how hydrogen is produced. So nowadays, more of the hydrogen is done by steam reforming of methane from natural gas, for example, which is so-called gray hydrogen, or blue hydrogen, where on top of this is utilized carbon capture storage. And there is also a green hydrogen directly produced by electrolysis from renewable sources. In this sense, we get feedback from several projects, and they mostly agree with the statement, with the main idea of the publication, which is very relevant in currently in today's times of energy crisis, that we need to move away from fossil fuels as quickly as possible. And in order to achieve this, the truly green hydrogen from electrolysis and renewable sources could be a true solution. And in this sense, blue hydrogen can be seen as distraction and provides no benefit. However, it was highlighted also that we need a very clear terminology and certification system of this green hydrogen, and based on the full life cycle. And this should be another task to be done on European level as soon as possible. Next slide, please. And the next topics, B and C, are related to the second document. Topic B, facilitate the reuse of waste heat to build a more circular system. In general, waste heat is a byproduct of many industrial processes and energy-related processes like power plants, electrolyzers, fuel cells, combustion engines, and also different kind of industries or refineries. But there is also a low temperature waste heat, for example, from cooling of buildings, data centers, heat that can be recovered from wastewater, underground water, or even from the air. And in this sense, heat pumps can be a very effective facilitator in order to recycle these low enthalpy heat sources. And of course, heat pumps and thermal energy storage are seen as key vectors helping for decarbonizing existing heating and cooling networks, but also as flexibility asset to the power grid and the missed link between heating and cooling networks and the power grid. And this for exploitation of excess heat and the promotion of heat pumps, along with the integration of renewable energy sources, can help decarbonize our energy systems. And in this sense, it is perceived that digitalization can play a key role in this kind of integration, waste heat, heat pumps, renewable energy sources towards grids, future energy networks free of fossil fuels. Next slide, please. And finally, another topic related to district heating is to promote low temperature district heating. And most of the projects that gave their feedback are supporting this idea. And they also anticipate that low temperature district heating networks are very important socio-economically advantages compared to the current high temperature options, and especially in order to integrate renewable energy sources and of course recycle waste heat with the utilization of heat pumps. And in this sense, heating and cooling networks can provide this flexibility to and balance renewable energy sources in the generation and supply side, and improve finally the overall efficiency. And in order to achieve this challenge, it is very important to optimize and digitalize this district energy flexibility from both production, distribution, and end users demand response flexibility of both heating and cooling networks as a whole. and therefore it is very important, this kind of standardization and the security of communication and data protection. Thank you very much, and I hope you join the following meeting in the storage working group to this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Oleg. And yeah, I'll come to the working group Consumer and Citizen Involvement, in which yeah, we during our discussions came across many of the topics which were now already mentioned, but then always yeah, of course, took in, as the title of the working group says, yeah, this additional perspective. How do we then yeah, engage consumers and citizens? So also when we talk about consumers here, we do not only talk about the individual person, but also different consumer groups and yeah, from business. And here we looked at 4 reference documents. So the document Exploration of Citizen Engagement Methodologies by the Bridge Consumer and Citizen Engagement Working Group, and also the Guidebook to European Building Policy and the ETIPS SES Implementation Plan. Meanwhile, there is a new version of this implementation plan. It's been published. The 4th document on engaging customers in demand response programs, we did not, we also discussed this, and there were also several contributions, but none of the topics which I will now briefly introduce refers to this particular document. So for topic A, identifying user types for engagement strategies, you can see here the approach that the Bridge Working Group has to, yeah, identifying and also trying to segment different user types, or the main user types that are involved in energy projects. And here the projects who discuss this topic, yeah, agree that there is a great necessity to, yeah, define or analyze, first of all, analyze different user groups to then be able and engage them, or develop engagement strategies. And it is, however, also pointed out that here, depending on the solution, we may have different segmentations. There may be variants within the group, and also not just potential users need to be considered. This needs to be thought quite widely to, yeah, that we also need to think of other stakeholder groups. And so here it becomes clear that this is a very, very complex topic, and I'm also looking forward here to the discussion in our working group session. And one aspect that is especially for the projects, which was pointed out, that really throughout all phases, starting in the very beginning, yeah, we need to think about how, yeah, which different needs we have, identify the needs, and how we can then create solutions and engagement strategies. For the second topic, actor-specific levels of accessibility, this is also somehow interlinked to topic A, because we look at yeah, different, yeah, user groups, user types, and but also refers to the aspect that Ludwig mentioned. So the question of open data, and how do we deal with the question of which data should be available, accessible, and how can we, on the one hand, make yeah, relevant data available and enable the access, and on the other hand, of course, yeah, prevent manipulation of sensitive data. And here, yeah, we heard or found in the discussion some interesting examples how different regions in Europe It's not even countries, but rather regions. So we have this really, this is really segmented, how different, yeah, geographically, but also how different actors approach this entire topic of yeah, data accessibility. And so here the clear message, and that there is still a lot of work to do to yeah, come to approaches and yeah, access systematics that allow yeah, access on different levels, of course, but make it easier for the different actors to get to the relevant information and data that they need. Yeah, empowerment through access to technologies and tools. This topic, based on the JPP SES RNI implementation plan, very much looks at the issue that, yeah, on the one hand, we want to integrate consumers, have them use new intelligent tools, but on the other hand, yeah, these tools must not be too complex to handle and need to be easily and carefully designed so that we actually get, yeah, can scale up the use of these tools. And yeah, taking, for example, taking a quite illustrative example from this process that the EU just underwent and now finally basically solved that with the standardization of the USB-C charging cables. So we took this as an example for a process that we would need for many, many other devices and aspects within in the energy sector to really, yeah, not just win the customers and consumers for the, yeah, for testing and piloting approaches, but to see how, or to include the use of these technologies and tools in the everyday life. And the last topic, then, yeah, the adoption of technical solutions for higher socioeconomical return. Yeah, this goes into a direction that has also in the past been frequently discussed within the working group. So looking also at, yeah, topics of energy poverty, how to make, yeah, include vulnerable social groups. So that here also the projects who discussed this topic, they also came to the conclusion that so far there is often an uneven distribution of the benefits, the social, but also the ecological and of course economic benefits from these technical solutions in the power system, the electric power system. And here we still need mechanisms and solutions to make this, yeah, a more socially equitable system. Yeah, these were the 4 topics we talked about in the consumer and citizen involvement working group. And now we will, yeah, it's already time to then jump to the first round of working group sessions. And before you all go into your working group of choice, you will then, as soon as you go into the breakout room, you will in the chat receive a link to the Padlet. And on the Padlet, we prepared the topics, some background information, and you can then here add your comment. And yeah, but we will also have somebody always to support. So you can also write the comments in the chat as you wish. And whenever you write on the Padlet, it is of course helpful if you indicate your name and your project, so that also for the documentation, we then have know who the comment comes from. And so in your WebEx app, you should all see at the top in the menu bar here, the button for the breakout session. And then you can now choose which of the 5 breakout rooms you want to join. And we will then come back into this room at 25 minutes past 4. Then have 5 minutes to rearrange ourselves and before we then go into the second round. So yeah, if there's any questions, yeah, you can still always ask them here in the main room and the chat as well. And otherwise, I wish all of us to yeah, good and productive yeah, working group sessions. And then yeah, we will see us again in 25 minutes before we then go to the second round.
Alisa, if you can
Yes.
show the slide with the working group short names, it will be easier for.
Yes. Sorry. Okay. So on the slide, we only have the long names, but we have SIME for system architecture and implementation modeling, SARCEX for storage, RAMD for regulatory market development, and then RegioM and CACI for consumer and citizen involvement.